It was past midnight when Sarah rushed into the emergency room, her 6-year-old son, Adam, limp in her arms. His fever had spiked dangerously high, his breathing shallow, and every second felt like a ticking clock against her chest. She didn't care about the stairs, the chaos, or the cold hospital lights. Her only focus was keeping her little boy alive. Tears blurred her vision as she shouted for help. A nurse hurried over, guiding her toward an examination room. "The doctor will be here in a moment," the nurse reassured. Sarah clutched Adam's hand, whispering promises that he would be okay. But when the door opened and the doctor stepped inside, her entire world froze. It was Daniel, her ex, the man she once loved with every fiber of her being. The man she had walked away from 6 years ago, without ever telling him she was carrying his child. His face was older, sharper, but his eyes were the same deep brown that once looked at her like she was his whole world. For a moment, Daniel stood frozen too. His gaze shifted from Sarah to the boy lying on the bed. Something flickered in his expression: confusion, shock, recognition. His hands trembled slightly before he pulled himself together and slipped into his professional tone. "What are his symptoms?" Sarah's voice cracked. "High fever, difficulty breathing, it started tonight." Daniel moved quickly, checking Adam's vitals, ordering immediate tests, and reassuring Sarah in a calm, steady tone. But every glance he stole at Adam was filled with something unspoken, something Sarah feared would soon spill into the open. As the hours passed, Adam was stabilized. The boy slept peacefully, his small chest rising and falling with the help of oxygen. Sarah finally let out a sigh of relief, but her heart still raced, because she wasn't just facing her son's illness anymore. She was facing her past. Daniel finally turned to her, his voice low. "Sarah, is he?" He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. His eyes were locked on Adam, and the resemblance was undeniable. The same dark hair, the same dimple in his cheek, the same determined frown even in sleep. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes. She had rehearsed this moment in her head for years, but nothing prepared her for the reality. "Yes," she whispered. "He's your son." Silence stretched between them, heavy and suffocating. Daniel's hand gripped the edge of the bed, as though he needed something solid to keep him standing. "You kept him from me," he said finally, his voice raw with hurt. Sarah broke down. "I had no choice. You had just accepted that fellowship abroad. You were building your career, your life. And I was scared. I didn't want to hold you back. I thought I was doing the right thing." Daniel shook his head, emotion breaking through his carefully constructed composure. "The right thing. You robbed me of 6 years with my son." The weight of his words crushed her. She had imagined anger, rejection, maybe even indifference. But seeing the pain in his eyes made her realize the depth of what she had done, not just to him, but to Adam. Over the next few days, Daniel took care of Adam personally, never leaving his side. He read his charts, adjusted his treatments, and even sat with him when Sarah closed her eyes for a moment's rest. Adam, too young to understand the storm around him, smiled up at Daniel with innocent trust. One morning, as Adam began to recover, he looked at Daniel and asked, "Are you my doctor forever?" Daniel smiled faintly, but his eyes flicked to Sarah. She knew what he wanted to say. He didn't want to be just his doctor. He wanted to be his father. The hardest conversation came later. Daniel confronted Sarah outside the room. "I want to be in his life. I don't care what happened between us, Sarah. Adam deserves to know his father." Sarah's heart pounded. Old wounds between them hadn't healed. Their breakup had been bitter, fueled by misunderstandings and pride. Could she trust him again? Could she let him into Adam's world without risking more heartbreak? But then she looked through the window and saw Adam laughing as Daniel showed him how to use the stethoscope. The boy's smile was brighter than it had been in weeks. In that moment, she knew the answer wasn't about her anymore, it was about her son. The days turned into weeks, and Adam grew stronger. Daniel began visiting often, not just as a doctor, but as a father. He took Adam to the park, helped him with homework, and brought little gifts that weren't expensive but thoughtful, like the same model toy airplane Daniel had loved as a boy. Slowly, the tension between Sarah and Daniel softened. Old memories resurfaced, late-night conversations, shared dreams, the laughter they once had. But this time, there was something more powerful binding them together, Adam. It wasn't easy. Trust had to be rebuilt brick by brick. There were arguments, tears, and long talks about the years they had lost. But with every challenge, they both chose to put Adam first. And in that process, something unexpected happened. Love found its way back into their lives. One evening, as the three of them sat together watching a movie, Adam curled up between them, holding both their hands. He looked up with sleepy eyes and said, "I'm happy I have a mommy and a daddy." Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. Daniel squeezed her hand gently, a silent promise that he wasn't going anywhere this time. Their story wasn't perfect. It was messy, painful, and full of scars. But it was real. It was proof that sometimes life brings people back together in the most unexpected of ways, not for the past, but for a future they never imagined. And the message was clear: love, forgiveness, and second chances can heal even the deepest wounds.